Hello, everyone. My name is Michaela, and today I'll be sharing my policy and advocacy exploration project on the least restrictive environment, or LRE. This topic really connected with me because it combines my passion for inclusion with my future as an educator. Through this project, I've learned that LRE isn't just about compliance or law, it's about values. It's about believing that every child, regardless of their ability, deserves access to the same learning environment and experiences and opportunities to grow. For me, this policy stands as a reminder that teaching is not one size fits all. It's about finding ways to meet children where they are and helping them reach their potential. The least restrictive environment is one of the core principles of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. It means that children with disabilities should be educated alongside their typically developing peers to the greatest extent possible. This focus isn't on removing a child from the general classroom, but instead on providing support, modifications, and accommodations to help them succeed where they already are. LRE is built around three big ideas: access, meaning opportunities to participate, where each child receives necessary resources to thrive in environments. Participation, meaning meaningful engagement in daily routines and learning. This fosters social skills and emotional growth, allowing them to have learning experiences where children interact and learn to connect alongside with their peers. And then the last one is support, meaning the services or strategies that help each child thrive. Providing this support should be tailored to each child and their resources, which helps them build collaborative environments alongside with their educators. What I find most important about this is that it reminds us inclusion isn't about where a child learns, but how we create spaces where learning is possible for everyone. I chose this to focus on LRE because inclusion is something that feels deeply personal and necessary in education. In my own experiences, in community spaces, and in my volunteering, I've seen how often children with disabilities are unintentionally left out. It's not always from a lack of care. Sometimes it's simply because environments aren't designed to accommodate everyone. As a future educator, I want to change that. My goal is to create classrooms that reflect real world where it's diverse, supportive, and inclusive to everyone. I want every child to walk into my classroom and know that they belong there. To me, inclusion isn't an add-on, it's a mindset. One that starts with how we plan lessons, arranging our classroom, and building relationships with families. The LRE policy gives me the foundation to do that with intention and purpose. The history of the LRE policy is a story of progress. It starts back in 1975 with the Education for All Handicapped Children Act. At the time, this was the first federal law guaranteeing children with disabilities the right to free and appropriate public education. In 1990, this law evolved into the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, which brought more attention to early childhood inclusion and emphasized individual education plans, or IEPs. The revision in 1997 and 2004 added clearer expectations that children should remain in general education settings unless absolutely necessary, and that schools must try supports and services before considering separate placements. In 2023, the Department of Education released an updated policy statement on inclusion in early childhood programs, reaffirming that all children from birth through age 5 deserve access to high quality, inclusive learning environments. When I look at this timeline, I've seen how far we've come, but also how important it is for educators like me to continue advocating so that the promises of this policy are fully lived out in every classroom. The research behind inclusion is incredibly consistent. The Division for Early Childhood Education, DEC, and NAEYC state that inclusion is not optional. It's a right for every child. Their joint position emphasized that children benefit socially, emotionally, and academically when we learn together. The Department of Education in 2023 stressed that inclusion means individualized supports like visual aids, flexible seating, or assistive technology, not just placing a child in a classroom and hoping they'll adapt. The Oxford Research Encyclopedia describes LRE as an ongoing process and as set as thoughtful decisions about how to remove barriers to learning. And it also found that inclusive classrooms not only help children with disabilities, but also teaches them typically developing peers empathy, collaboration, and problem solving. Reading all of this helped me realize that inclusion is not just the right thing to do, it's the most effective way to teach. When I think about how I can advocate for LRE, it starts with what's in my control, my classroom. Advocacy doesn't always mean being at the state capitol. Sometimes it starts with the choices I make every day as a teacher. I plan to use Universal Design for Learning, UDL, strategies so that each child can access the curriculum in ways that fit them best. That might mean using visuals, music, or hands-on activities to meet different learning needs. I'll also work closely with families and specialists to build strong communication and consistency between homes and school. If I see something that isn't working, I'll reflect and adjust because inclusion is a process that grows over time. And beyond my classroom, I'll share ideas with other teachers, lead by example, and advocate for professional development that helps everyone feel confident supporting diverse learners. This is what being an advocate looks like, creating change throughout everyday action. When it comes to advocacy, I believe that the audience includes teachers, families, and administrators. The reason why is because everyone plays a role in making inclusion real. For teachers, I encourage you to start small. Try one new inclusive strategy this week, whether it's adding visual supports or adjusting how you group students. For families, I say your voice matters so much. Share what works for your child, ask questions, and partner with teachers so that they can learn from you or we can learn from you. And for the administrators, I ask for more opportunities for collaboration and planning time because inclusion works best when teachers have the resources and training they need. Inclusion takes teamwork, patience, and heart. It's not just about following a policy, it's about building a community that believes every child belongs. This project has been eye-opening as it helped me connect the information between law, research, and everyday teaching practices. I know that advocacy isn't something that's always on a large scale, but now I can see even more how it happens in small ways, like in your classrooms and in the community. Every time a lesson is adapted, communication is clear with parents, or a child's needs are spoken for, I'm advocating. The LRE policy reminds me that inclusion isn't a final destination and something we have to work toward continually. As a future educator, I'm committed to being intentional about creating inclusive environments, advocating for equity, and continuing to learn from my students and colleagues. Because at the end of this, inclusion isn't just a policy, it's a promise we make to every child, and I plan to keep that promise in my classroom every single day. Yeah.